There was a time when work looked very different than it does today. Before automation, safety laws, or modern conveniences, people made their living in ways that might sound bizarre or even dangerous by today's standards. These jobs may seem strange now, but once upon a time, they were essential parts of everyday life. Today, we're looking at 10 crazy vintage jobs that actually existed. 1. The knocker-upper. Long before alarm clocks, towns employed a knocker-upper to make sure people woke up on time. Armed with a long stick, or sometimes even a pea shooter, they tapped on windows to rouse workers before dawn. It was especially common in Britain during the 19th and early 20th centuries. The job eventually disappeared when affordable alarm clocks became widely available, but it's a quirky reminder of how people once relied on human alarms. 2. Switchboard operator. In the early days of the telephone, every call had to pass through a human operator. These mostly female workers sat at large switchboards, physically connecting wires to patch callers through. It was tedious, busy, and sometimes chaotic work, but it also meant operators often knew all the gossip in town. The job faded out as technology advanced, but for decades, they were the human voice of communication. 3. Ice cutter. Before refrigeration, ice was harvested directly from frozen lakes. Teams of men with saws carved massive blocks and hauled them into storage, later delivering them to homes and businesses. It was grueling, freezing work and incredibly dangerous. Once refrigerators became common, ice cutting quickly melted away into history. 4. Lamplighter. In the 1800s, city streets were lit by gas lamps. Every evening, lamplighters walked from post to post, carrying long poles with flames to spark the lamps to life. At dawn, they returned to snuff them out. It was steady work, but also risky, climbing ladders in rain or snow, handling open flames near gas. By the 20th century, electric streetlights made this once essential job obsolete. 5. Pinsetter. Before automatic bowling machines, kids and young men worked as pinsetters in bowling alleys. They manually reset the pins after every frame, often dodging stray bowling balls in the process. It was noisy, dangerous, and poorly paid, but for many teenagers, it was their first job. The arrival of automatic pin-setting machines in the 1950s ended this unusual gig. 6. Milkman. For much of the 20th century, fresh milk wasn't bought at a store. It was delivered to your doorstep by the milkman. Clinking glass bottles were left in metal crates, and empty bottles were picked up for reuse. Beyond milk, many delivered eggs, butter, and bread too. As supermarkets and refrigeration became more common, the familiar morning visit from the milkman gradually disappeared. 7. Rat catcher. Cities in the 19th and early 20th centuries had a serious rat problem, and professional rat catchers were hired to control the vermin. Equipped with traps, sticks, and sometimes even trained dogs, these workers protected food supplies and kept disease at bay. While unpleasant, it was a vital job in crowded urban areas. Modern pest control eventually replaced them, but the title of rat catcher is still one of the strangest job descriptions in history. 8. Elevator operator. When elevators were first introduced, they weren't simple buttons you pressed. They were complex levers that required skill to operate. Elevator operators greeted passengers, controlled the speed, and even acted as mini concierges in hotels and office buildings. By mid-century, automated controls replaced a human touch, but the elegance of being guided by an operator remains a nostalgic memory. 9. Resurrectionist body snatcher. In the 18th and 19th centuries, medical schools desperately needed cadavers for study, but legal supply was scarce. This gave rise to resurrectionists, who exhumed fresh graves under cover of night to sell bodies to doctors and universities. It was dangerous, highly illegal, and deeply disturbing, but also lucrative. Stricter laws and regulated medical donations eventually ended the trade, but the chilling job remains one of history's most notorious. 10. Computer, the humankind. Before digital computers, computers were people, often women, who performed complex calculations by hand or with slide rules. They worked in science labs, observatories, and even NASA, crunching numbers that changed history. The role was highly respected. But as electronic computers took over in the mid-20th century, the human computer became a lost job title. Still, their legacy lives on the achievements they powered. From alarm knockers to body snatchers, these strange and often forgotten jobs remind us just how much the world has changed. They may sound crazy now, but each one played an important part in history. Which of these jobs surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this trip through forgotten history, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more nostalgic journeys with Rewindly.